What's up, guys? My name is Jake Thompson, here with the Jump Professors, and today we are going to be interviewing Leevan Sands out of the Bahamas. He's been all around the world competing at world championships, Olympics, and overall killing it in the triple jump. He's also moved on to coaching at Northern Colorado University and FSU, so I'm very excited to get his thoughts on triple jump, competitions, different stuff, his story. So let's get right into it. So, Leevan, tell us a little bit about how you got into triple jump, your experience as a younger athlete, and as you were getting into the triple jump game, how did it start?
It all started from I was very young. I actually was a sprinter. I did the 100, the 200, 400 meters, and in elementary school, I was one of the fastest sprinters coming out of elementary school in the Bahamas, right? Which led me, which helped me get a scholarship. So I got a scholarship offer to a Christian school in the Bahamas called Temple Christian. I went to Temple Christian School, seventh grade, on a full scholarship. And I got there, I realized that I wasn't the fastest person anymore. So I remember clearly, after my first year, seventh grade, the PE teacher, she came to me and she was telling me that they most likely gonna have to take my scholarship away. I was like, what? At the time I knew my parents couldn't really afford the school that I went to, right? So, but I'll never forget, my father at the time, he was upset because I told him, I came to the car, I was kind of teary-eyed crying and stuff. I said, Mommy, they're gonna take my scholarship away. And she's like, what? And the reason why she said they was going to take it away was because there were parents, some of they were a little older than me, right? So because they were beating me and they wasn't on scholarship, their parents were complaining about, me being on scholarship and their son is faster than me or whatever, right? So the thing is, and then when I told my father about it, he was so upset because he was like, why did you tell a child that? You know what I'm saying? You should talk to the parents, right? So,
Mm.
so at the time, I was looking for a coach. To coach me in the sprints, and it was hard for me to find a coach at the time. I kept getting turned down and stuff like that, and eventually, my father found Henry Roll, who was he was a coach at a school called St. John College in the Bahamas. My dad reached out to him. He reached out to a few coaches, but Henry was the one that saw me, and he was like, "Oh, this guy is kind of lanky and tall. I'm gonna train him to jump, right?" So I was like, "Okay." So, I started training with Henry Roll, who ended up being my Auburn coach.
Hmm.
So he actually did well at the high school in the Bahamas and got offers to coach in America. I think his first school he went to was Oral Roberts University in Oklahoma. He moved on from there, went to Auburn, and recruited me ever since from high school all the way up to that point. But the first time I did triple jump, though, I tried it for the first time was in the eighth grade, and I jumped 44 feet. The very first time I did it, 44 feet.
Wow.
And this was with no form, like no
Yeah.
form whatsoever. I just running on the runway and just hop, step, jump.
It was just that speed.
Yeah, I didn't even know what I was doing. 44 feet, and maybe 4 inches, maybe. And that was the eighth grade. And then after that, I started training for, I was still long jumping and high jumping, but I started really taking it serious after that because everybody was like, you jump 44 feet. I was like, yeah, I don't know what that means. You know what I mean? And it's eighth grade. So shortly after that, a year and a half of training in the 10th grade, I actually did the trials, the Caribbean trials, which is like a Caribbean championship with all the Caribbean islands. And I actually qualified to go to my first international meet in the 10th
Wow.
grade.
In 10th
Yeah,
grade.
10th grade. And
Wow.
I went my first Carifta Games, which was in Barbados, and I won the triple jump. I was under 17, and I won the triple jump. I jumped 40.
And you're competing against seniors as well?
No, they're actually juniors. It's under 17, and then it's the other levels under 20, which is the juniors. Yeah. So that was my first year. I was 15 years old, and I jumped 47 feet 7 inches.
Nice.
And so from that, I was after 10th grade. And then I started getting offers for high school in America. Then I actually I went to military school in Florida, in Melbourne, Florida, and I won state. My first year there, I went to state and I won long jump, triple jump, and high jump
All
at
three.
state, all three of them.
Dang.
And then I went on and I won the Gatorade Athlete of the Year.
Hmm.
I won Gatorade Athlete of the Year, and then the following year I went to the National Scholastic meet. It used to be, I think it's a New Balance meet now, but it used to be called National Scholastic, which was like the nationals for the junior. It's USA Nationals, Indoor Nationals Championship, and I went 52, 52.2, which is like 16:07.
In what grade?
And I had the record. This point I was in the 11th or 12th. I was in 12th grade.
52.
52.2. Yeah, I went 52.2 and I won. I broke the record. I had set a new national record there.
And that
This was
was
a
for indoors.
That was indoors, yeah. I was indoors. I was wearing some. I remember I was wearing some glasses, some sunglasses, and everything. I coming on
Indoors.
the run indoors.
Nice.
It remind me to send you the video. It's on my Instagram. I have the video on my Instagram.
Nice.
I went 52.8. And then from there, I had every university in America offering me full scholarships. I had good grades at the time. At the time you needed the SAT score, so for some reason SAT was hard for me for some reason. I don't know. I was slow test taker, but I had A's and B's and stuff in school, but just couldn't take those standardized tests. I ended up going to JUCO, which was Barton County Community College. I
Barton
don't know if you
County?
heard of it. Yeah, I don't know if you ever heard of Barton. So, as by the time at Barton, it was me, Tyson Gay, Veronica Campbell, all these people names you might not know. You might have heard of Tyson Gay, maybe.
Hmm.
Yes. So I was at school with those guys, and I jumped. I think my first year I went 55 feet. That was the first time I went 55 feet and 8 meters. Yeah. So my second year at JUCO, nationals, I jumped 57.5. This was my sophomore year in college. So I jumped 17.50, and that was when I had set a new national record. And this is me. I was what 20 years old, and I jumped 17.50 at the JUCO nationals. Set a new JUCO
And
record.
how
It's
old did
still
you say
there.
you were?
I was like 20. I was like 19 or 20, 20 years old.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I had set a new.
that was the JUCO national record, like so all of it.
Yes, JUCO nationals. You can look it up. It's still there. See.
Dang. That's
Yeah, so
crazy.
I don't think that's gonna be broken for a while. You talking about the year? This was 2002. Yeah, yeah, the
So
JUCO record. I set the new JUCO record. I actually, I had went to, so I qualified. I had actually broken the national record, which was held by Frank Rutherford,
mhm.
who had won a bronze medal in the Olympics in the it was '96 Olympic Games. He had won the bronze medal in triple jump. So here I am at 20 breaking, you know, this guy who went to
National
the
record.
Olympics, and I was like, wow. And so I actually started going on the circuit, like competing on the European circuit as a sophomore.
Hmm.
So that was when I was competing with Jonathan Edwards and Christian Knudsen, Patanzos, uh, who else? All those, what's his name? Oprea, Marion Oprea.
Hmm.
He was from Romania. Gregorio, he was the Brazilian, tallest guy they ever competed against.
And how tall are
Gregorio
you?
is like, I'm 6'3". Yeah, but
Whew.
Gregorio was probably was 6'8", the Brazilian. Christian Taylor would know. Christian Taylor kind of caught a little bit of that era with me and Gregorio. He caught a little bit of it. Him and Will Clay. But yeah, I started, and from that I went to that was 2002. I went to the Commonwealth Games that summer. I was only 20, and I won a bronze medal behind Jonathan Edwards and Philip Sadu. I'm sure you heard about Philip Sadu too as well.
Yes. Out
Yeah,
of Great
one other
Britain?
one. Yeah, out of Great Britain. And
He always has some crazy outfits.
yep,
The dyed
yeah, he,
hair, headbands, all of it.
yeah. I'm surprised you know about because I mean you so young, but you probably follow all the jumpers then from like past jumpers and
Yes.
everything.
Watching all those YouTube videos of the competitions. I
Yeah.
mean, I watch all of them. Sometimes I'll just be okay. If my teachers are listening to this is not true. I'll just be like sitting in class watching the Olympics and not really paying attention. If my parents are watching this, that's also not true. So, but yes.
Boy, yeah, yeah, that's good. Yeah, so trying to fast forward the story is a lot of stories. I trying to sum it all up and to make it a little shorter, but just a lot of experience I've had, over the years. And so 2003, 2003, which was my first year at Auburn University, I won the long jump nationals in long jump, and I also went to the World Championship in Paris, and that's where I won my first international competition medal, a bronze medal
Dang.
at 21 years old. I think I jumped 17. I won the bronze with 17:26 at that meet. And then, went on. I went back to school. I had the opportunity to go pro. I signed with Nike.
Hmm.
But I decided to go back to school. Back then, we didn't have any NILs and stuff like that, and you know what I mean. We didn't have
Yeah.
any stuff like that, but I decided to go back to Auburn for my senior year because we had a good team. We got we got we got second or third. And then season 2003. So Auburn, the men's team. So
And so you
I was
decided to come back in 2004? Or
yeah.
yeah.
So I did 2004 season without Auburn. I left a lot of money behind on the table, and then indoors, I remember getting hurt, and
Hmm.
I was unable to compete at the indoor nationals at Arkansas. But I had to do my rehab and came back outdoors, and I won nationals, the triple jump nationals in 2004. And then I went to my first Olympics that year as well to qualify for Olympics. My first Olympics, I went in the games village too early, kind of walked my legs out and I didn't make the finals my first Olympics, and that was disappointing for me because I knew that I was top three the year before, and so but I learned a valuable lesson. The next Olympics came around, we actually had a training camp, and I actually went into the Olympic Games village a lot later than I did the previous one. So I kind of went in the Games village like probably like a week before a competition versus being in there like 2 weeks before.
Hmm.
Because sometimes, games villas, you could be kind of far. You're just walking around and stuff like that. And the excitement, and just being on your feet a lot. So I learned a valuable lesson from that. And then, so Beijing came around, and that's when I won the bronze medal. My first Olympic medal in Beijing.
Second Olympic Games?
Second one, yeah, my second
Well,
Olympics.
I don't remember who said this. It was an athlete that went to the Olympics, but he said that first one is always for the mistakes, you know? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
it is though. The experience. Like I said, you go to the first one, you see in all these. I mean, you consider the star too, but you
Mhm.
seen all these NBA stars and you're like, hey Kobe, you know what I mean?
Kobe. My
Gotta
goodness.
get a picture. You gotta get a picture with Kobe, you know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
And so, it was a great experience. The first one was a great. The opening ceremonies and all that stuff is great. I did it differently the second time around because I remember what it felt like not making the finals is a bad feeling, especially when you one of the top jumpers in the world. So, like I said, the second time around, it was the best feeling in the world, like winning an Olympic medal. You couldn't tell me it wasn't the gold medal that I won. So I just got one.
You
I
got a
didn't care.
medal. Yeah.
Yep. And I feel like in history, I think Beijing Olympics triple jump was probably one of the most historic ones ever because I think it was like fourth place was like 1752
Whoa.
at that Olympics.
Dang.
And I think fifth place was probably like 1704.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was
Like
up
all
there.
eight, yeah,
All of the jumpers were up there.
all the jumpers. And to
Top
make the
five.
finals, I think you had to jump like 1715 just to make the finals.
Yeah. That's up there.
But yeah, that was one of the toughest qualifying rounds I've ever experienced in my life.
Yeah, but you did it and you got third.
Yeah. I did it. I was hungry. I'll never forget. My name wasn't called as a favorite.
Yeah, that's the
I'll never
motivation.
forget that. Yeah.
That's the
So,
motivation. There you go.
man, I feed off stuff like that. I'm the type of jumper like I just need something to feed me, to get me hype and get me motivated, and I'm gonna talk trash.
Oh yeah.
I was a trash talker. Christian could tell you. I want someone to talk to me, tell me, talk down to me, talk bad to me. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna show you how great I am. You know what I mean? The announcer did not call my name as one of the favorites, even though I had won a medal the year before. I mean, in 2003, in 2005 World Championship, I was fourth in 2005 as well, World Champs. And then here comes Beijing. I wasn't named as one of the favorites. I said, okay, I like that. I said, y'all, and I started talking to everybody. I said, y'all think y'all gonna win this? All right. I'm telling you, all every last one of y'all fighting for second and third.
So who's
Yeah.
the athlete that would talk a little bit of trash back the most?
It'd be like Walter Davis, people like
Walter
Walter
Davis.
Davis, Kent Bell, who else? Christian and Will, they talk more. They came up in the era like a little after me,
Hmm.
but it was mostly like Walter Davis and Kent Bell. You might not know Kent Bell, but these guys, boy, they used to get on you. They used to talk trash. Like you would want to fight. Eric. That's what I'm saying. Eric Wilson too. Eric Wilson talk.
Mhm.
And I love it. I love it. And everybody start talking and talking like that. You know what I mean? Since then, like since like '08, 2012, after '08, I felt like when some of those guys they were older than me. when they kind of like retired and stuff like that, I felt like some of that stuff kind of died down. That's killing the sport. We need that,
You need it
we
back.
need that hypeness,
Yeah, because
that keep the sport hype.
it feels like now there's more so there's the stone cold, type of just like nonchalant,
Yeah,
not as much of the competitive drive as,
nah,
but
right. That's not how we did it. That's not how we did it. That's not
it's
how we
not.
did it. We got our adrenaline up high, and we were like angry, like wanting to fight angry.
And
You know
then
what I
look where
mean?
that got that final with everybody like going like
Oh yeah,
17 meter or
17 meters. Yeah,
17.5 up. Wow.
yeah.
So who
There
was on
was
that podium 2008?
which one? 2008. It was Philip Sadu, myself, and Nelson Iborra. Yeah,
Yeah,
Nelson Iborra won that, and Philip Sadu then me.
nice.
Yeah, can't forget Nelson. Nelson was a serious competitor, strong competitor.
Yeah, he
You
uh
know.
he had some insane triple jumping. Like just the way that he would just attack the
Oh
ever
yeah,
living hell out of the ground. It was insane.
yeah. He has one of the best phases that I like. His jump phases are pretty sick,
Yeah.
especially his step to jump alongside with the Cubans. The Cubans they don't really never really mess up on their form at all. Their form is so like technically sound.
Yeah. Something about those Cuban jumpers, they just got it. I don't know. Long jump and triple jump, you know.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah,
So yeah,
after the 2008 Olympics, you got third. Where did you go from there?
I did the World Championship in 2009. I was in great shape there too. Finished, I think did Christian win that one? 2009. I can't. No, Phillips Adu won the World Championship in 2009. I think Christian came after that. But yeah, I was fourth place there. That was another medal that I missed. It's similar to like 2005, where I lost by 1 centimeter, 2005. And then same thing happened in Berlin. I had the medal up until the last round, and one of the Cubans had passed me by like 2 centimeters or something like that. And coming down the runway on my last jump, my calves cramped up. Man, I was going for a big one, and then I felt like after my first four pushes, both of my calves started cramping up.
Mm, both of them.
So both, and I still tried to finish the jump. I still tried my best to finish the jump, but there's nothing you could do when you got both calves, cramps.
Yeah. Sometimes you try to push the intensity, but something broke your
Yeah,
heart. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. And it's just it's disheartening and it's just disappointing sometimes when those things happen. And that's not the first time it happened. And then 2 years later, it was 2010. I competed in Puerto Rico. That was the only big games they had, the CAC games, and I won the gold. I jumped 17:21, win the gold there for the Bahamas in the triple jump, jumping against Randy Lewis. I don't know if you might have remember Randy.
I've heard his name. I don't think I've ever seen him jump.
Randy. I think he competed at Wichita State. He competed at Wichita State, and he had found his form. He was living in Germany, and during that period of time, he started finding form and started jumping like 17 fours every meet and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Yes, and then he became one of my best competitors as well. And after that, in 2011, he went to the World Championship and was in Daegu. So I was a
And where?
finalist there too as well. Daegu,
Daegu? Where's that?
yeah, Daegu, Korea.
Korea. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
you don't remember
Nice.
that World Champs? The World Championship was 2011.
Yeah, I'm not, sometimes it feels like they're keeping these videos behind a vault or something because like
You
I
can't
can't
find
find
all of
them.
them. Yeah,
No. Some of them are
I'm,
just missing. I don't know where they are. So,
yeah. I can't even remember who won that World Championship. That one, I think, that World Championship in Korea. Who won that one? I can't even remember who won that one. But I think I was fourth again or fifth in Korea. I had to look that one up. I don't know why that one just kind of like stray away from my mind. But the next year was 2012 in London, and at the time, I was again one of the favorite. Again, I was in great shape. I remember in practice, I think Christian might have watched this too because I saw him. He was on the sidelines watching, and I had went for 8 steps, 8 total steps. I jumped 60 and 60. So that's when I knew. I was like, "Yep." I said, "Yeah, they're in trouble."
yeah. Oh,
Right.
it's not going to be fun for everybody else.
Right. At the time, I was like, yeah, they're in trouble. I told my coach, I said, Coach, I'm ready. I'm ready, So I went into the finals. That's when I blew my knee out.
Mm.
Ruptured my patella tendon in the final. So I took one jump to make it to the finals. You know, took my shoes off and went home. Went to the games village, and then I guess they did it every 2 days later. They had the finals. Did the finals again. First jump was the qualifier, and I jumped like 17. I want to say 17.2 on my first jump, or something like that on my first jump, and then I was like, yeah, I'm ready. So here I am. Second jump was like probably like 69 maybe, and then my third jump, I think it was over 17 meters, but I hit the long jump board. I had hit the long jump board, and I kind
Mm.
of I felt like I messed up my knee.
Mm.
So I think I did partially torn my knee on my third jump, and I knew it too. I felt it,
Mm.
and I went right back on the fourth jump, and I told myself, I said, you know what, this is the Olympics. Just gonna have to tear off the bone. You know what I
Ah.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So on my fourth jump in the finals, I ruptured my. I came down the runway and I said, "This is gonna be the biggest hop of my life, hop
Yeah.
step of my life, right?" And it really was because I saw after my hop, you could feel when you have a big jump, right? I went into my step phase and I could see the pit, like it was that close, right? And I said, "Oh yeah, I just gotta finish this." And I planted, and I just heard, "Pow!" It was my patella tendon. And
Yeah.
I laid there and I was like, oh my God, I don't know what happened. I kind of flipped over because I kind of fell back on my elbows in the pit. When I flipped over, I went to check to see why what's the problem. I didn't know. I felt like I slipped. So when I flipped over, my kneecap was in my thigh. So I was like, what? So I looked down and I was like, what is this? When I was like, I felt it in my thigh, and then I was like, then I looked, I felt, then I kind of touched my knee area, right, where the knee was, and there was nothing there. It was just a hole,
Just a hole where your kneecap used to
yeah,
be?
where my kneecap used to be. So
My
I kind of
God.
like was pressing it, and it was like my thumb was just sinking all the way in. So I was like, I know this thing just happened right now, and I'm in the best shape of my life.
Yeah.
And I was like, when the doctor came, the medic came, and they kind of the doctor he had touched my knees, and he was like, yeah, you can't jump anymore. So I was like, what you mean? I'm looking at him like, what do you mean? I was thinking he meant forever for the rest of my life. He said, I don't think you'll be able to jump again. So that's what he said, and I was like, what you mean? No, what? I tried to get up, and I couldn't get this leg up for nothing. I couldn't get the leg up,
Yeah.
and that was it. I was left on a stretcher, and that's the last time I went. I had immediate surgery. I actually spent my birthday in the hospital. And I told the doctor, I gotta get out of here because my birthday is tomorrow. And so I spent my birthday in the hospital. I think I spent like 4 days there, and I'll never forget that. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. I'll never forget the moment um, when the nurse came in with the crutches, and I was so happy to get out of bed, right? And I had and so she brought the crutches to my bed, and I was like, oh yes, I could get up now because I was sitting down, I was laying in the bed for 4 days. So when she told me to get up and she put my leg down, I was like, oh no, I had to. It was so much pain. It was so much pain. It just felt like
Yeah.
my knee was ripping apart.
Yeah.
So that happened, and that took me 2 years of rehab. And even though I've heard from so many people that I'm done and there's no way I could jump again, and all this stuff is just building up and building up, and it took me 2 years of rehab. You know what I mean? So 2013, I started my rehab like the end of 2012,
Mhm.
and the whole of 2013 rehab. And 2014 was rehab, but what I decided to do, I went back to long jumping in 2014.
Mhm.
And I actually made a team for long jump. I went to Glasgow, where I jumped in Glasgow for it was the Commonwealth Games.
Mhm.
I went there. I didn't make the finals, yeah, but so I wanted to work on my speed and stuff again, for the triple jump, because what the plan was to work on your speed, do some long jumping, which is the opposite leg, and
Mhm.
then in 2015 was when I started like doing my triple jump stuff again.
Mhm.
And I actually, in the beginning it was tough because I kept seeing myself get injured. I would look down the runway and I'd be like, oh.
Oh,
So, you know, I mean, I was like,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's going to blow it again, you know? So that kind of deal. So that's the kind of stuff like, you know, we as athletes, we have to deal with, especially coming back from like a traumatic injury like that, you know?
Yeah.
You see yourself getting re-injured again and stuff like that. So that was a huge mental thing I had to deal with. You know, I remember my first time I jumped and I went from a 16 step full of, which is my full approach, and I must have jumped 15 meters 15 meters nine, you know, something I would jump in like, you know, 6 steps, easy, you know.
Yeah.
It was that moment where like I felt like people just kind of like pretty much saying that, you know, they think I'm done, you know. So from that, I just kept on training. At the time, I started training myself, you
Hmm.
know what I mean, because it just seemed like people just didn't see the vision of me getting better.
Yeah.
So I started to do my own thing. I brought up my cameras and I recorded myself and started train myself. And I started doing little local meets in Atlanta, just in the area, just trying to find my rhythm again. And
Hmm.
then I actually started to find it. You know, I started to get it. And then um, I remember um, I had jumped the qualifying mark to go to the Commonwealth Games in Canada in 2015, and this the same year as World Championship, Beijing World Champs,
Hmm.
right? I actually got to the point to where I qualified to go to the Commonwealth Games. You know, something about my federation was trying to tell me they wasn't taking me, and even though
Hmm.
I qualified, and so that was a battle within itself. You know, I had to call around, call the president, or you know, call one of the presidents um, for the games, and I just let them know like, hey, you know, I qualified, but my country's telling me they only could take one person, which I know they could take two people. So, I actually had a cleaning business at the time, and I was, you know, the team had already left about a week ago, the
Hmm.
week before prior to this, because I already made up my mind. Okay, they're not taking me. So I got a call, which was like about 4 days before competition. They called me and said, "Hey, we got a ticket for you to come to Canada, right? Come to Toronto for the Commonwealth Games." And I was like, I mean, I was actually at a house. My business was at a, you know, cleaning new construction homes. That was one of my businesses. I was actually at a house doing a construction cleanup at the time. I got a call from from the from one of the coaches from the team, and he said that we have a ticket for you to leave tomorrow, which was like a Wednesday, right?
Mm.
So I was like, what? So you know, I just you know I finished doing my work, and I was like, okay, I'll be here. I hop on the plane to Canada,
On a
you know.
Wednesday.
Yeah, I go into Canada, and then I had about a couple of days to train, and did my little training stuff. I was jumping with Pachado.
Mm.
Pachado was there. I'll never forget. He won, and there's another Cuban guy who was there. And here comes me, you know, I'm a competitor. I compete at big meets. So it's like, you put me in the big meet and I'm gonna win. I'm gonna bring home the medal. That's just how I always was like that. So I actually jumped 16.99 there and I got the bronze medal. I got a
Dang.
silver medal behind Pachado. And that jump qualified me for the Beijing World Championship that summer.
Hmm.
And then I went to Beijing for the world. I went to Beijing for World Champs in 2015. I was top eight. I made top eight. You know, I did all this training myself.
There you go. Trained
Yeah,
yourself back up from a patella like total
tendon
tear,
rupture. Yeah,
total,
complete
all the
rupture
way back to the World
to
Championships.
World Championship. And then following 2016 Olympics, I qualified for Olympics 2016.
Nice.
And so from 2015 all the way up to 2017, 2018, I've trained myself until I took, and then I think around the 2019 is when I took the job at Northern Colorado. And from there, I had two guys made it to the regional championship,
Mhm.
and which kind of made history for that school. You know, it's a mid major university, so is you know it's kind of rare to see two guys
Two
going to
guys,
regionals from
both
that
in
one
triple jump.
school. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, they both were triple jumpers.
And I bet that experience coaching yourself during those years translated like directly into the collegiate coaching. So
Sure, I did. You
tell us
sure
a
I
little
did.
bit about like what skills you developed from coaching yourself that you felt helped you later on during college coaching.
Definitely patience, you know, because, you know, and then not having like an eye, like someone that just showing you and telling you this is what you're doing wrong or this is what you need to do. I had to like, that was hard. It was very hard to do it. I had to like do a rep and then run to the camera, you know, kind of, you know, back and forth. Okay, this way doing this wrong. So I think that actually helped me with coaching a lot too, because I was able to coach myself back to the Olympics, and back to the World Championship. So there's not a lot of people who could do that, you know what I mean? So I actually learned a lot just from coaching myself. It's a lot of patience. It was oh my God, it was tough.
Yeah.
But I was able to help. It was able to help me too with structuring my workouts, my workout plans for even for coaching college. Because then I learned how to write. I started writing my own workouts, right? So before that, I didn't know how to write workouts like that. I just go to practice and whatever my coach give me,
Yeah.
I just did it, right? But I think I learned a lot from just, doing it myself because I had to do everything myself. I had to write my own workouts out. And I kind of like thought about everything that I've done with my coach at Barton, jumping, jumped 70-50, and my coach at Auburn. I kind of put everything together from my memory
Hmm.
and from some stuff from when I was growing up in the Bahamas, some of the things that I did growing up in the Bahamas, I kind of compiled all those in one, and even to this day I use those training regimens for my athletes today. Yeah, but yeah, it helped me out. It helped me a lot. With the training regimen aspect.
So
Yeah,
you had the two guys that went off to regionals.
yeah.
And how long did you coach at that school?
2 years.
Two
Yeah,
years.
it was 2 years. 2 years, and Florida State offered me the job after those two guys went to regions. I got offered the job at Florida State.
And then
Yeah,
you started coaching Kevon Davis. Did you coach
yeah. So
Laquan Ellis as well?
yeah. So those guys came last year. My first year, I was coaching Isaac Grimes and
Hmm.
Jeremiah Davis. And so I had a small group at the time. It was maybe like 5 people. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And so, at the time I took Isaac to the NCAA championship indoors. And we did indoor and outdoor championship. And my first year with Jeremiah, that's when he got second. Isaac was third or fourth. Yeah. So, and then Isaac had graduated that year, and then that's when Jeremiah took off. He really took off after that. And Kevon and the rest of those other guys came in after that. Yeah. So, I coached a few NCAA run-ups, multiple All-Americans, ACC championships, ACC record holders. The jump group I had, we scored most of the points at the ACCs,
Hmm.
and also at the NCAA level as well. So I think we did pretty good. We did pretty good. My 3 years at Florida State.
Yeah, because whenever I think of like college, especially in the AAC, like Florida State was like the jumper school in the AAC,
Yeah.
and um, like I only started really keeping track of the college stuff last year, and like that's what I know. I was like
So you
FSU is
saw
a
it.
jumper
FSU.
school, and
I
that
know a
was
lot of people are saying that.
and that was before I knew you were coaching there. And whenever I found out, I was like, oh, nice, yeah, that checks out. That makes a lot of sense.
It makes sense, huh?
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. We
So
did. We did some great things. I'm very proud of them. The boys and the girls that I coach at FSU. In the last 3 years, it's unfortunate that I wasn't able to stay there. Things happen, and we move on and bigger and better things.
mhm,
I still wish them all the best. They seem to be doing okay. Yeah, a lot of great memories at Florida State. And now I'm still coaching Jeremiah on
mhm,
the pro level. He signed with Puma.
he did.
He's actually my first Olympian from college Olympian. So we're gonna keep it moving.
Gonna keep it moving.
We're blessed and highly favored.
Yes. So are you still in Florida
Yeah, I
or
still live in Tallahassee. Still
okay?
live in Tallahassee at the
Nice.
moment. So yeah, like I say, doing the private coaching stuff right now. It's going pretty good. I have kids from all over, from Tallahassee and Jacksonville down to Tampa. And
Nice.
I coach a couple people online. I do a couple of, like a few people online coaching. So
Nice. Yeah,
yeah.
that online coaching is a different struggle.
Oh yeah, because you all alone, right? You all alone. It's like,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
it can
hard.
be tough, and I relate a lot to how you were saying like running back and forth between the camera because like
Yeah,
I set up my tripod and I go do my thing, come back, send it to my coach, and I'm like looking at it. It's like,
it's a lot. So
yeah,
you learn a lot too from just doing that, because you actually learning how to coach yourself as well.
yeah,
So maybe
just
maybe one day,
one
hmm
day.
yeah,
That's
maybe one day it'll translate to you being one of the best coaches in the nation too.
maybe. I'll settle for being like one of the above average coaches in the nation.
You never know. You
No, no, we're
never
going
know.
for the top. We're going for the top.
Yeah, that's what I'm
So
saying.
tell us a little bit more about what you've been doing now with Jeremiah Davis. Like, what have y'all been focusing on? Because I know that he's probably trying to shoot for LA 2028.
Oh, of course.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Well, yeah, of course. Of course, this year it'd be World Championship. It'd be his preparation for his first World Championship. But it's a little different now for him. He have to get used to being a professional athlete or competing like a pro. Because being a pro, you don't really do a lot of meets like back to back. And with college system, you could jump back to back and just kind of work your way into shape. But the instruction as a pro, you gotta have a meet this weekend, and then you might not compete until another 3 weeks. So learning how to handle that will probably be like um, a learning struggle for some people who just come out of college as the first time pro. But it's nothing that I can't train him through because I've done it all. So what I mean. So, like I've been on the circuit, like I said, for years. Over 10 years. So I kind of like trained him through all of it, and kind of like just guiding him through as a mentor, as a coach.
That is one thing that's really different between the college circuit and the pro circuit is that the meets are much more sparse on the pro level. Like you were saying, like every 3 weeks maybe for pro, but then it's back to back weeks in college. Do you think that's
Yeah.
a good thing, a bad thing? Would you like to see that change in the future with having a little bit more meets for people who aren't in college anymore?
I think there is meets, but it's just that going to certain meets, you might not have competition. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because they do have a lot of meets. It's just that finding the right competition, it'd
Mm,
be tough. You know what I mean? So it's not like they don't have meets. It's like being a pro, you want to go to meets. You want to be strategic. As a pro, what meets you go to. And because of course you want to make money too.
hmm.
You know what I mean? So you want to be very strategic. Some people they have to chase marks because they don't have rankings in the world. So a lot of times you'll find that some semi pros they just chasing meet after meet after meet. But someone like him who have like marks who like top in the world, he's gonna be invited to meets. So you have a chance to like prep for certain meets at
Mm.
certain times, and then like how to back off of certain meets, and when you want them to like kind of peak at a meet, you just know. But
That makes sense.
yeah, yeah. So with college though, you actually it's like a job, So it's like you have to do these meets,
Mhm.
and you have to go to conference because that's the job. You get a scholarship, you have to
Yeah.
go to the meet, and you got to compete. You got to make it
You
to
got
the
to get them
NCAA's.
points. Got
Yeah.
to get them points.
So I
Yeah,
think that's the difference. That's
that
the
makes
difference.
sense.
Yeah.
Because I guess my perception was just like because you were saying like you gotta be selective with the meats, I was just thinking that it just they weren't there. I'm not too
Yeah.
like knowledgeable about the
The pro
professional
circuit.
scene. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, you can look on the list that you'll find meets,
Mhm.
but again, some meets you might go to might not be structured for like a pro, like for pros. You know what I mean? You're gonna be jumping with high schoolers, and it's just gonna be like, it don't really make sense, in that kind of way. So like, you need competition to compete well.
Mhm.
It's like I'm not gonna go to a meet and I'm an 827 jumper, right? Long jumper. So I'm not gonna go to a meet and jump 8 meters, with jumping with people jumping 6 meters.
Yeah.
So
It just
so
it
that
wouldn't be it would
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It'd be hard to get big marks at some of the local meets. But
yeah.
and it's also hard for a lot of pros too, because if you don't have a good mark, you don't get any big meets too. So
Mm.
back in the day, back in like in 2020, 2002, 2003, there were a lot more pro meets that you could go to. They had a circuit in Paris in France. They had a Caribbean circuit you could go to. It was before it was a Diamond League. It used to be the Golden League, and then with the Golden League, they also had so the top athletes. Like if you top eight in the world, you go to the Golden League, right? And there also were meets called the Super Grand Prix meets that if you can't make it to the Golden League, they had the Super Grand Prix meets that you could go to. And then they have like a sea level circuit too. So there was always a bunch of meets every year. But now,
Mm.
saying over the past 15 years or so, 10, 15 years, they just have Diamond League. There's not a lot of like C meets or B meets to go
Mhm.
to make money and stuff like that. You know what I mean? If you're not in the diamond league, it's like hard for you to go and make money. So
Yeah, that makes
yeah,
sense. That makes a lot of
yeah,
sense.
yeah,
There has been a lot of talk with stuff like Michael Johnson's Grand Slam track, putting a little bit more emphasis on the track events. And we were talking before we went on the air about potentially having more jumps meets
yeah.
for the jumps to give a little bit back to that community. So you said that you've been planning a little bit of this. So tell us a little bit more about these jumps meets that you were thinking about.
Yeah, this been a thought for years, like a few years, because like I said, I've been around a long time and I've witnessed, jumpers not getting, you're not getting the time, the time of the day. Everything is just based on sprints and basically sprints. I feel like the jumps is very exciting event, and especially a triple jump,
Hmm.
one of the hottest. I think that's one of the hottest events on the track. So. Um, I feel like, you know, they could give us our respect, give us some respect, you know what I mean?
Yeah, give us
And
our respect.
yeah, I guess, everybody want to see who's the fastest man in the world, but I feel like triple jump and long jump can be very exciting too, um, with the type of jumpers we have in the world right now, especially the girls lighting it up, jumping over 7 meters now easy, but I feel like hosting or starting a jumpers circuit would be kind of fun. I don't think I'm sure they have meets like that, but I want it on a bigger scale. Like some stuff on the beach or something like that. You know what I mean? Like off the track. You know what I mean? And I seen they have like road races, like 100 meters on the street and stuff like that.
That'd be
But
pretty cool.
yeah, I like to
Yeah.
put the triple jump and long jump on the beach. That's one of my goals I had for years, and I think I want to follow through and try to see how I can make that work. You know what I
Because
mean?
yeah, that's like a universe. I feel like it's a universal jumper experience. Whenever you go to the beach, you gotta,
Yeah, that's what
jump
I'm
a little
saying.
bit in the sand.
Exactly. And if you think about like the scenery of it all, like the type of crazy, insane pictures and stuff like that you would get it for, I feel like, that could change the game.
Yeah.
Because everybody like nowadays, everybody like pictures and stuff and videos and sceneries, right?
Hmm.
I figure like change the scenery a little bit,
Yeah.
take it out of the stadium
Take it out of the stadium.
and just have jump competition in random places.
That's pretty cool. And that brings to mind like all those jump competitions that are just like you put them in the middle of like the street in some city. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
yeah,
Yeah, like
it's like
that. I've
changing it
seen.
up a little bit.
Yeah, you change it up a little bit, change the scenery, and then you make it more exciting, for people to come out and just watch the jumps. You know what I mean? However you want to structure it. I have an idea. Just don't want to tell all the ideas on, people to steal
Hey,
the ideas and stuff. So
yeah,
yeah, but
gotta
that's
keep
one.
some of them close.
Yeah, but that's one thing I really want to get into is hosting just jump meets. Long jump, triple jump, high jump, um, um, and pole vault maybe. You
Nice.
know, yeah,
Giving
like
a
a
little
pro
bit of
circuit.
love to the jumps.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah, like a showcase, showcase just the jumps, and we could do it big with the lights and the fireworks and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah,
I'll be heading up to those competitions. I'll be there. I'll be
yeah.
there.
I would like it to be to where like you have the stands just on the runway, like they sit in like the runway, is just the runway,
Oh
and the stands is like on both sides going straight up on the runway.
yeah, that's cool.
So the crowd is right on the runway clapping.
Yeah. Oh, that
Yeah,
would be. Imagine being on that runway.
that's what I'm saying.
How would
And
that feel? Like,
you could almost touch people, you know what I'm saying?
yeah, the adrenaline would be on another level.
That'd be so hype.
Insane. Yeah. I have this like vision in my head. You got the runway, and
Hmm.
then it's a little bit lowered. The
Yeah,
stands aren't like up here, so the cameras can still get in.
yeah, yeah.
I think that would be yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
or you could use drones. Drones. I like drone stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey,
you could use drones.
there's so many
It'd be
things that
sick.
could be done, but somebody's just got to do it.
Yeah, that might be
So
the first one. I'm a probably might take it to Bahamas maybe.
nice. So
Yeah,
let's switch up the topic just a little bit. Let's go back to more of like the triple jump technique stuff to close it out. So you obviously have a lot of triple jump experience. you were great from a young age. You said you
Hmm.
started off as a sprinter. Do you think
Yeah,
that like that speed that you got from practicing the sprints was the thing that
yeah,
got you to big marks really early on?
yeah. I mean, obviously, yeah, I was a sprinter. I think sprinting actually helps with jumping, and that's why I feel like my coach always had me long jumping because the long jumping speed is different, right? So I feel like if you could sprint on the runway, you could, that it helps with distance. Speed brings distance, right? Once you learn how to contact off of speed, you get the distance, as simple as that, you know what I mean? But you got to run, Everybody you see jump far, they run it fast on the runway, you know what I mean? So I feel like my Auburn coach, I didn't jump as much with Henry. It's kind of like how I train my athletes as well. A lot of people want to go full approach jumps and stuff like that. I never jump full approach in practice in my life. And my athletes don't do it either. There's no need for that. We work technique, speed, and technique, and that's it.
Interesting.
So we're doing more running than jumping. But also, you have to have the days where you do your plyometrics and um, your plyometrics on your jump days. But it's not more than when you jump once a week.
So jumping just once a week and then
That's
plyometrics
it.
on other days?
Yeah,
And then the
that's it.
jump day is off of short approach, not full
Short
approach.
approach, never full,
Interesting.
never,
And that
never
is
go full approach.
very something very interesting is that like it feels like going off of full approach in practice is like not the it's definitely not the same as in a competition. Like you just
No,
can't get it to that level.
and that. Yeah, and that's the thing there. So it's hard to like perfect a full approach jump in practice. So why do it? Just focus on a short approach where you could perfect it easier and you work in the form. And then when you go into meets from full approach, then you'd already perfected the form from short. So it's like, it just works out to where when the adrenaline started the meet, then you just do whatever you did from short.
Hmm, interesting. I think maybe for younger jumpers though, they need a little bit of that like patterning out the approach, you
No,
know?
you
No?
work the, no, because you work in the approach from full approach, right?
Hmm.
You work in that for muscle memory and they learn how to run that approach, then they know how to run the approach. They're going to be on the board regardless from running the full approach.
But
As far
you
as,
you separate out the approach work from the full
yes,
approach jumps?
well, you don't do full approach run, but you're doing the full approach runs,
Yes.
but then with
Okay.
short approach jumps,
Yes, I understand it. Yes, that makes sense.
right?
Hmm.
So,
Right.
yeah, because younger jumpers, they're too weak. They cannot go from a full approach and do a triple jump
Yes.
every 2 days. And I think in high school, I don't know how you guys structured, but I've seen some of the high school kids when I'm coaching like some kids, they're going. Coaches have them doing full approach triple jump in practice, and I'm watching, and I'm like, and I'm looking at their form, and it's like everything's just rushed, and they're not actually learning how to triple jump when they're doing it that way. You know what I'm saying? Like you gotta start. It's just like a baby creeping, and then learn how to walk, and then he's learn how to run. So you gotta start small steps, baby steps, then you take bigger steps. And so like it may start from 4 steps, and then I might go to 6 steps, and then once they see they getting the form down, then I go to 8 steps. The furthest I make the farthest I may go is maybe 12. That's it.
With a younger
And
jumper?
yeah,
Mm,
in practice.
yes.
And I believe in injury preventative training. So yeah, that's why I use the box a lot too.
To kind of like take the load off of the landing?
Off your legs, after pop up, coming off the ground and stuff all the time.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Very
So
interesting. So
yeah,
that is one big thing to consider whenever like you're training yourself or you're coaching is that like load management. Because if you're doing like full approach jumps in
hmm.
practice, you're hammering like too much volume, too much intensity. You're gonna get hurt.
Oh yeah.
Triple jump is not like a cakewalk. It's not easy.
No,
No.
no. You have to watch the volume on your triple jump. You don't have to do too much as long as you're doing certain drills and certain plyos. The longer you keep them off the track, the longer they're gonna last. I think the way I see in some people, even some college coaches structure their training plans is that they're on the track too early. For one, the pounding from being on the track early it just trickles down to when the season starts. You know, the legs already like beat up.
Hmm.
From being on the track so early. You know what I mean? I keep my The way I structure my own, we on the grass way longer than anybody else,
Hmm.
and we working the plyos on the grass, getting ready for the track, and then when the time is right and they're ready, you just be ready,
Makes
you know.
sense.
Yeah,
Taking that load off, getting the technique, getting a little bit more accustomed to the movements, and then you bring it
bring them
onto the
back to
track.
the onto the track. Yeah. So because at the time, I believe in building up, building strength, um, from the off season, building strength up to getting to the point where your ankle's strong enough to where it can handle the track. Again, I go back to like you go on in the track too early. If you're not doing the ankle stability stuff before that, then of course you later on you're actually gonna say, I sprained my ankle because it wasn't ready for it yet. It's
Yeah.
simple. It's just as simple as that.
And that's another pitfall of a lot of kids who might not have a coach and they're just like, doing it themselves as they're doing too much. Like
Yeah,
they'll absolutely kill themselves, but like sometimes, most of the time, especially in triple jump and long jump, less is more.
yeah.
Like
Especially for triple jump.
especially for triple jump, because you got to stay fresh.
Yeah, for sure. And you got to know how to recover and finding your recovery methods too. So, you got to, is massage, is the ice baths, very important with people who doing a lot of plyos, a lot of jumping. Ice bath it should be your best friend.
Got to feel good.
Yeah,
Yeah, because if you don't feel good, then it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to feel
yeah,
good.
yeah,
So you're just practicing bad habits at that point. If you go
yeah. You
out
got to
there and
take
you're
the
not fresh.
inflammation out. Right. You got to take all the inflammation out from all the jumping and stuff.
Yeah,
That's what the ice bath does, flushes out the legs and, get all that inflammation out and you're ready to go.
ready to go. Nice.
Yeah.
So if you had some three key points of advice for jumpers that are in high school, maybe college, what would that be?
Three is a lot.
Just the first things that
I
come to
would say,
mind. They're
first
just like the
thing, I
most
mean,
important things.
yeah, I would say, listen, a lot of, we got a lot of hard-headed people, kids, just listen to your coach. Your coach knows what he's doing, just trust the process. You got to trust the coach too. I would say, continue to work hard and there's always going to be like downfall. They're going to be like some potholes you're going to fall into. But as long as you continually keep goals in mind, I think you could achieve whatever you want to. You
Yeah.
just have to set goals and set your dreams high. And you be consistent, dedicated, and committed to wanting to be great. Average doesn't win. Average will never win. You know what I mean? It can't be average. You know what I mean? You wanna always have that mindset of I'm the best, and competitors have to know that you're the best as well. So because that's important, when you see when you look and you compete and you see someone who got all the swag, you say, oh, he wearing the sunglasses. What you doing? You watching him, right? You be like, oh, he must be ready to jump. So
He's wearing those sunglasses indoors,
that's what
remember?
I'm saying. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. So
exactly.
so it's a mind game too. So you got to know how to play a mind game. You know what I mean? Like, with me, I would do stuff like that because that make me feel confident. And so you got to find what makes you more feel confident to know that I'm ready and nobody here is better than me. If he's good, that means I could be good or I could be even better than him.
Mhm.
And so you got to just walk around and be confident. It's not like some people would say it was cocky. Well, I was cocky when I was competing, but to me, no, I wasn't. I was competitive. You know what I mean? And I'll let you know that it ain't gonna be easy for you, and sometimes that could take you out of your game. You know what I mean? And that's fine. If it takes you out of the game, then and I win, then my job is done. Simple as that.
Hey.
You got to find your strength
Hmm.
and try to beat me, and that's a tough thing to do.
Oh yeah, because you got to have that same confidence if you're going to
Yeah,
try
the
to beat.
confidence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So I would say, have strong confidence and just keep believing in what you're doing, and just remember that, there's greatness in everybody and everybody have it. So it's just up to you to get it.
Yeah, and that is like I was talking with Christian Taylor last interview,
Hmm.
and he was saying triple jump is just track is 90% mental. Like if
Oh
you don't
yeah,
have it up here, then everything else is not going to be there.
yeah,
So the confidence aspect, the like comfortability, being able to just like have that like you know confidence in your own abilities
oh yeah.
is
I mean,
important.
and if you put the work in, then It's just a matter of, showing it on the track. You got to put the numbers out there,
Yeah.
and
And
you
if you're
can't be
putting in the
passive.
work, if you're
Yeah, you
putting
put
in
the
the
work.
work, then like you have a reason to be confident because like
Hmm.
you've been working and like the stuff that you've been doing in the months leading up to the
Yeah,
competition is going to be what's taking you far.
yeah. And another key, what I would say is compete, practice like you compete, practice like competition. That helps a lot. You know what I mean? So if you passive in practice, then of course you're not gonna jump far at the meet, right? So you got to bring that same aggression when you practice like you compete.
Mhm.
So that's another key note.
And that brings to mind, so during that time whenever you're training without a coach, did you have training partners? Were you like competing in practice against other people, or was that you on the track by yourself?
Yeah, it was always me. Even when I was at Auburn, I was the only triple jumper there, triple and long jumper male. So I've always been by myself, and that's why I would tell certain people that you don't have to be in a big group. You know what I mean? Like you could do it. Like you could do it. By yourself. Like I did it by myself. You just got to learn it. Like I say again, I lead back to training like a competition. You know what I mean? You got to dig deep, and it's only you on the track, so you have to find that motivation when it's just you by yourself training. You know what I mean? If you could do that in practice, and you're a dangerous person. Yeah, and you could pull off big jumps in practice. That person is one of the dangerous person you want to jump. You know what I'm saying?
Because
A dangerous jumper.
whenever they get to the competition, they're gonna
It's
have
easy.
the adrenaline.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. It's easy after that.
it's easy. So, what were some things that you would personally do to get yourself into that competition mindset whenever you're out there on the track by yourself?
I would just think about all the negative things someone might have said. And it could be a year ago, 2 years ago. I just go all the way back in my memory of what someone said to me when I
Mhm.
was young, or something someone did to me, and then boom, it just clicks.
Yeah,
I think some of my competitors tell you like I'm the coolest person off the track, but when the competition starts, they know not to talk to me because I would run over you in the warm up area.
yeah,
We cool, but when I'm competing, that's not me. You know what I mean? I'm
yeah.
a different person.
It's like we were talking about Kobe earlier. It's like
Uh-huh.
that Mamba mentality.
Yeah, that's it. Like I'm in competition mode. Like I see red. I'm
Hmm.
seeing red right now. It's like, yeah, it's go time. It's time to win a medal. So I don't have friends when it's time to win medals. There's no
Yeah,
friends out there. You know what I mean?
yeah.
We
You
all
got
competing
yeah.
for this one medal. I mean, we have three medals, but the goal.
The gold, first place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ah,
So yeah, it's like I lost a race when I was 8 years old, and it's been motivating me ever since.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or someone
So
telling you can't do something, or in my case, I had to deal with um, or he's done, or he's finished, and why don't he give someone else a chance, and like stuff like that. That motivated me, and
for sure.
just dealing with a lot of adversities when it comes to like even getting what I deserve for winning, or being one of the top athletes. Like I'm talking about in my country or whatever. Like stuff like that used to help motivate me.
Hmm.
Because I feel like sometimes the rules always change when it's time for you to get what you deserve. You know what I mean? Sometimes it be like that. So yeah, learned a lot from situations like that, and that helped me to keep pushing. And then the injuries, and it just, you know what I mean, and just fighting to be the best in the world. And through all adversities, it's just, you know, I know my wife always tell me, "Oh, you strive with negativity. You need to strive of positive stuff." But I'm like, no, negativity is what drives me.
Hey, and negativity can be powerful if you use it right, but a lot of people tend to like let it weigh them down and like have
Right.
the opposite effect. Is that they let the negative comments, you can't do this, you can't do that, get into their head, and that's what they start to believe.
Exactly. And that's what
Yeah.
I feed off of that. That's what I feed off. And I think that's what kind of pushed me throughout my whole career. Like all the negative things I had to go through in my
Hmm.
in my career was like, yeah. And there's been some difficult situations where, sometimes it could put you in a mental state, where you could almost be suicidal sometimes. I've been there. Been in all of that, such situations like that, when you're on the top and then you face, uh, you know, situations where you lost. a lot, and then you have to make your way back up. And I've been through all of that adversity. Even now, with the whole situation with Florida State, and now you know I wasn't retained in Florida State, and it's crazy, right? But
Yeah.
it's all good. It's all good. So you have to go through situations like that, and in order to elevate to the next level, sometimes, and not let those situations like tear you down. Because the only reason why I could go through this right now is because I've been through it multiple times before. So this can never break me. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm. Yeah. And like the more that I talk to athletes and coaches, the more I realize like nobody has it easy.
No.
No. I mean, some people might have like easier than others or like have what you want to have, but nobody's journey is easy. And it
No.
affects like everybody the same, you know? Like
Yeah.
adversity is going to be a part of it. You can't
Yeah.
expect to just skate on to what you want.
Mm-mm.
Being able to deal with that adversity is the important part, and that makes you like, yeah, gives you the strength, like, because
Yeah.
life is just if your journey is just easy, then there's no triumph, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and it goes back to like what I was telling you earlier before we got on. Like I'm pretty sure like you could talk to any athlete like who was a gold medalist, and they could tell you stories on how they got there. And like I said, people only see the glory, and not the story. So it's like they think it's easy because we win medals, but they don't know what it took to get there. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like it took a lot of loss, a lot of sacrifices and injuries and trying to make a comeback and people telling you go find a job, like it's not a real job. Like
Yeah.
dealing with stuff like that is crazy, you know what I mean? And instead of like some people encourage you to like follow your dreams and goals, sometimes some people they don't see it as that, you know what I mean? So that's why it's so important for us or you at least to follow you have a vision and a dream, you follow it yourself and you listen to people and kind of like you follow like the people that's feeding you
Hmm.
positivity and supporting you. That's the type of people you want to kind of hang around because anybody that's negative, I kind of weed them out of my life. You know what I mean? Because I know I going up. I'm not going down, and I'm not staying in the middle. So if you're not coming, or if you're not in the same train, then you could jump off. You know what I'm saying? That's the type of person I was always like. You know what I mean? Elevation. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the thing that they do at like Navy SEAL training where they're carrying the logs, carrying the boats, and they've got a whole
Yeah.
team of people like on this one log. If one person is not pulling their weight,
Hmm.
then you need to cut them out and find somebody new, you know?
Yeah.
So if they're not helping you get where you want to be up that hill, then,
Hmm.
you know,
Cut them loose.
cut
Yeah.
them loose. I
That's
mean,
it.
and it can be hard, but, it just
Yeah.
depends on how badly you want it, you know?
Yeah, because it's dead weight. You know what I mean? Like you can't carry dead weight to the top.
No.
You know what I mean? Everybody got to be on the same page.
Yeah. You got to be
You know?
all moving in the same direction. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's the way I try to be, as a person and as a coach, you know what I mean? I try to teach, kind of train my athletes to keep elevated and keep going higher and higher to be successful, in whatever they do. We could, I mean, even apart from track and field, me and Jeremiah, we have long talks and, he lost his mom last week. We had her funeral was last week. A lot of people might not know that, and he went to the USA trials and competed and came forward and still jumped 801. But you could imagine the trauma and stuff dealing with that. He had to do to do that. You know what I'm saying? So I think from my experience, I'm able to help people like that because I've experienced that too. Everything in life, I think I have experienced it. I mean, because I lost my father was one of my biggest motivator. 5 years ago. This is my first year coaching in Northern Colorado. So I think the Lord allowed me to go through these situations. I blew my knee out, right, in 2012, and after that situation people saw me came back and now people message me and they want to know how did I do it. So I'm able to help people now talk them through situations like that and be
Hmm.
like, hey, I could tell people like, hey, you're gonna be back. A couple of videos, people I don't even know, ruptured patella tendon. Say I had the same injury I had. I came back even stronger. Right now I can still dunk a basketball at 43 years old.
Hey,
You know what I'm saying?
nice.
So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I came back. You know what I mean? Like, you could do the same thing. It's like, it gives me great satisfaction to know that from my experience, I'm able to help, uplift other people. And that's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about. Well, yeah, we are running a little bit long here. You had a lot of great stories from your career.
Yeah.
A lot of incredible advice.
Yeah.
Just the importance of everything. I mean, we went over everything. Just like the importance of who you surround yourself with, some training, knowledge, and wisdom, the importance of how you motivate yourself during your
Yeah.
journey, and how you overcome adversity, which is, I
Yeah.
think, one of the most important parts because everybody's going to be facing adversity, but we got to get
Hmm.
through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to say? Where can people find you, and what can people be expecting from you in the next couple weeks and months?
Well, my Instagram page is Superman Sands. That's my personal page, Instagram, and Coach Leevan Sands. That's where I post most of my training videos, with my athletes and stuff like that. And I'm still in Tallahassee, Florida. So if you're looking for private coaching, this is where I'm at.
All right, you get coached by the Leevan Sands. Oh yeah,
For sure. Zero excuses, only results.
zero excuses, only results. I love it. That's the quote to end off on. Zero
Hmm.
excuses, only results. Well,
Yep.
thank you again for coming on the show. It was great talking with you.
Yes.
So
Appreciate it.
I'll see you next time.
Yes.
All
Thanks,
right.
Jake. Yeah, you were
Thank you.
great.
Thank you. Thank you. All
All
right.
right.
We'll have to have you
Okay.
on again. All right.
All right. Anytime.
Adios.
All right.